Okay, so I'm going to present a short overview of the Secretariat's activities to enhance effective participation in the work of CRC and POPRC. And I'll first present the mandate for such a participation and coordination in the work of the scientific and technical bodies of the three conventions with a historical perspective. Then I'll briefly introduce the benefits for parties and members of such coordination. And finally, I will present an overview of the activities being organized by the Secretariat this year and in the upcoming biennium on this topic. So in terms of mandate, basically it stems from the synergy decisions. In 2008-2009, the conferences of the parties adopted the recommendations of the ad hoc joint working group, which requested the Secretariat to facilitate the exchange of relevant information between the technical and scientific bodies of the three conventions through sharing information. In 2010, at the EXCOPS 1 in Bali, the parties requested the Secretariats in the omnibus decision to prepare joint activities to be included in the work plans of the three conventions, including activities to facilitate the exchange of relevant information between the technical and scientific bodies. As a result, in 2011, the three conferences of the parties included in their respective programs of work a joint activity to enhance cooperation among the scientific and technical bodies of the conventions and to identify common issues and linkages between the conventions. This is what we refer to as Activity S6. In 2013, the conferences of the parties adopted a technical assistance program, including activities on cross-cutting issues, such as support of the work of the scientific bodies of the Rotterdam and Stockholm conventions. And the budget activity 17 is specifically on training and capacity building activities to enhance implementation of the three conventions at the regional and national levels. The 2013 omnibus decisions defined a very new mandate for the future by recommending to accelerate the implementation of joint activities in the future biennium, to align the scientific bodies' working arrangements to allow for mutual information sharing and effective participation, and finally by requesting them to discuss further steps to enhance the coordination between the two. In terms of activities, the activities will be targeting past, current, and future members of the POPRC and CRC, as well as parties and observers. And the benefits which are expected for such members and parties of an effective participation and coordination are threefold. First, this will allow for more exchange of information on chemicals included in both conventions, both regarding chemical names, risk evaluations, alternatives, reliability of scientific information, and this will avoid duplication of efforts. Then this will also allow more networking among the experts to exchange experiences and support the work of institutions in the various UN regions. And finally, this will build capacity. For example, inspired by the POPRC tradition, inception workshops are now planned for new CRC members, and they will be able to participate in POPRC sessions as possible observers. Support will also be provided by the Secretariat in day-to-day activities and intersessional work, and webinars and workshops will be organized to enhance the effective participation of members from developing countries and countries with economies in transition. Several activities are planned for this year and the next biennium. For the first time in October 2013, the 9th meetings of the POPRC and CRC will be held back-to-back in Rome, Italy, and a joint session is planned specifically on October 20th. Several webinars will also be taking place on the topic of effective participation and coordination between the two bodies. And finally, workshops will be organized for members and other stakeholders of CRC and POPRC, with the first planned to be held in November or December 2013 in Senegal for French-speaking African countries, and 2 other regional workshops will be taking place in 2014 and 2015. That was all for me in terms of overview of activities. I will now pass the floor to Ms. Neslihan Grasser for the next presentation. Thank you. Hey, too. Yeah, I need to give it a phone. Maybe she read it on I'm not muted. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. I don't know if you hear me or not, so all right. Okay, so nice to be with you today. My name is Neslihan Grasser. I will be giving you a short overview of the CRC and POPRC mandates and review processes. I will be mostly talking about the CRC process, and my colleague Camini Manuera will be taking it from me for the POPRC related processes. Okay, so let's start here. Here's a brief overview of what our presentation will look like. We'll start with the mandate. We'll talk about the membership process. We'll talk a little bit about the chemical review processes for the two committees, and then we'll talk about the listing of chemicals and finish it with that. Okay, so here's the Stockholm Convention mandate for CRC. With Article 19, the POPRC is tasked with assessing a proposal by a party for a chemical to be listed as a POP in Annex A, B, or C of the Stockholm Convention. There's a sound in the background, but I don't know if you can hear me. I hope you can. And to go into the mandate, short mandate for Rotterdam Convention for CRC, it's given by Article 18 of the Convention. And basically what it says is that the CRC is to make recommendations on the inclusion of chemicals in Annex 3, which can be... Hello? Can you hear me? For the inclusion of severely hazardous pesticide formulations and also for removal of chemicals from Annex 3. CRC is also to draft DGDs in task groups for chemicals and FHCFs that have been recommended for listing in Annex 3. Here's a short overview of how that looks once a chemical comes to the CRC. Sorry, can you hear me? Actually, it seems there are some microphones that are on. Those people who are not presenting, which should be, in fact, nobody. Can you please turn off your microphones? If there are any people with their microphones on, please turn them off. Okay, thank you very much. To continue now, the CRC basically reviews the information provided in notifications
for chemicals and pesticides according to criteria 2002, and recommends to the COP whether the chemical in question should be made subject to the PIC procedure and listed in Annex 3 accordingly. A little bit differently is the severe hazardous pesticide formulations. When a proposal for these severe hazardous pesticide formulations comes to the CRC, CRC again reviews the information. Only in this case, there's one proposal coming to the CRC, and the additional information is collected. And CRC reviews the information according to criteria set out in Annex 4, and recommends to the COP again whether the HPF should be made subject to the PIC procedure. We'll go into the details of this. This is just to give you a brief overview of how that works. Now, let me explain a little bit how the membership process for this Chemical Review Committee and POPRC works for the subsidiary bodies of the two conventions. In both committees, which is a similarity to the two committees, there are 31 government designated experts. There are 5 regions, and all these experts work in an independent capacity up to a maximum of 2 consecutive terms. When the nominations are taken, equitable geographical distribution is taken into account, and members are experts of the committees for 4 years. Rotation of the membership is basically aiming that half of the committee members are changed in both cases every 2 years to be able to maintain some continuity for the expertise in the committee's work. By having experts who have already worked in the committees staying, I mean, half of the experts who have already worked in the committees before staying in the committee, you have a continuity of this expertise being passed on to the new members, and that way you never have actually a full set of new members coming into the committee. When the membership declarations are made, there's also this conflict of interest form that is given by the members, which makes sure that the member is being there in their own individual capacity and are free of any conflicts of interest related to the chemicals that are being discussed in the committees. Chairs are elected by the COPs, although there are different procedures related to that. I'm not going to talk about the details of this, because I don't think this is this group. We can discuss further in detail if there are any questions about it. Okay. For POPRC, there are a few little differences about membership regarding the two committees' work. For POPRC, the vice chair is elected by the committee from among its members, and for CRC, there's actually a bureau representing different geographic regions. Balance of different expertise, different types of expertise is taken into account in POPRC work, and of course for the CRC as well. It's hoped and assumed that the experts that are nominated carry relevant expertise with them to the committees, to these committees' work. Now, if I start with the chemical review process of the CRC, this is kind of complex, so I will go through it through the presentation, and then we are going to look also at a chart that might simplify matters for you. This review process is basically detailed in Article 5 of the Convention for banned or severely restricted chemicals. Let me see if I can zoom further here. What happens first is that Secretariat receives a notification from a PIC region and reviews whether the notification is complete. Once this has been done, the notification is published in the PIC circular, and the rest of the world is informed that such a notification on a certain chemical has been received. When there's a second notification from another PIC region, and the Secretariat verifies again that this notification is also complete and verifies the conditions in Annex 1, it goes to the CRC. CRC reviews the information according to Annex 2 criteria. And to look at it in short, we can briefly say that CRC, when looking at this information, shall confirm that regulatory action has been taken in order to protect human health and the environment. To establish that, excuse me, the regulation has been taken as a consequence of a risk evaluation. The CRC is to consider whether the regulatory action provides a sufficiently broad basis to merit inclusion of the chemical in Annex 3. And it's also to take into account that intentional misuse is not in itself an adequate reason to list the chemical in Annex 3, particularly, for example, for pesticides that are used for suicidal purposes. So how do we know if the regulation is a consequence of a risk evaluation? There are some things that the CRC looks at to first come to that conclusion. First of all, the CRC looks at whether scientifically recognized methods have been used, whether the applied procedures and principles are scientific, and also if the risk evaluation, in view of the conditions of the party taking the action, are there. So basically, CRC is looking whether the prevailing conditions in the country are taken into account when this risk evaluation is done. And what is sought out here is that the risk evaluation, in fact, has been carried out in the country, and that the country has really checked what kind of risks there are for its own situation. Of course, countries know that many chemicals are hazardous and toxic and so on, but in fact, did they really check to see if this is really the case in their own conditions, and they have been affected and taken results of that and informed the Secretariat and the rest of the world accordingly. This is what the CRC looks at. CRC also looks whether the regulatory action provides a sufficiently broad basis to merit inclusion of the chemical in Annex 3. So basically, does this notification or this action in the country that resulted in notification led to a significant decrease in the quantity used of the chemical? Does this really lead to any results, an actual reduction of risks for the country? Or was there a limited applicability in the first place of this chemical in the country? Is there any evidence of ongoing trade in the chemical, and if so, what is it? After all this review of the information that's been provided to the CRC through the notifications and the supporting documentation that's been submitted to the Secretariat, which is then sent to the CRC, CRC comes up with a recommendation as to whether or not it should be included in Annex 3. Here's a review of the situation again. As you see, two separate countries from two different peak regions sent their notifications of final regulatory action, meaning that they sent the information in the forms provided by the Secretariat to the on these chemicals that they find to be problematic in their own circumstances to the Secretariat. Secretariat reviews whether the information is adequate according to Annex 1, and then sends it to the CRC. Let me see. Looking at this chart, what might be of interest is also, the DGD preparation process. I'm not going to go much in detail about that, but basically, after the CRC has reviewed the notifications, it has seen that there should be a suggestion to the COP that these chemicals should go to the go into Annex 3. There's also an analysis by the Chemical Review Committee expert groups, which leads to the preparation of a draft DGD. This is done in rounds, and experts get involved with their individual knowledge and following a certain format, right at the draft DGD. After a few cycles of review and acceptance of the CRC of the draft DGD, the COP decision, this information is sent to the COP. Okay, I just had a question about what the draft DGD is. Thanks for asking that. Draft DGD is basically the decision guidance document. So when I refer to a draft DGD, I'm talking about decision guidance document, a document or a report, you could say, that basically explains the reasons why a country took a certain decision and the relevancy of it to the chemical and what kind of impact this chemical had in those countries. That has all this information and is hoped to lead the decisions of other countries. And that's why it's called the Decision Guidance Document, or DGD as we refer to it in our own jargon. Basically, after the COP receives the CGD along with the recommendation for the CRC, it either agrees that the chemical should go into the convention list, which is Annex 3, or it says that shouldn't, which happens often, for example, with in relation to asbestos, and the chemical, for one reason or another, which may also be political, is kept out of the list for a while. So this is, in general, how the process works. When I give also a brief overview, maybe a little bit faster on the severely hazardous pesticide formulations. Similarly, Secretariat again received a proposal this time on a severely hazardous pesticide formulation from the country and checks whether the proposal is complete. In this case, you don't need 2 notifications, just 1 proposal is enough. CRC reviews the proposal according to the information in criteria in Annex 4. And in reviewing the proposal, the CRC takes into account, there's a mistake here, it should be reviewing the proposal, we should correct that. The reliability of the evidence indicating that the use of the formulation in accordance with common or recognized practices within the proposing country resulted in the reported incidents. Whether the relevance of such incidents to other states with similar climate conditions and patterns of use of formulation, whether there's a relevance of such incidents to other states with similar climate conditions and patterns of use of the formulation, whether there's existence of handling or applicator restrictions involving technology or techniques that may be reasonably or widely applied in states lacking the necessary infrastructures, the significance of reported effects in relation to the quantity of the formulation used, and intentionally misused, again, like in the other one, has been felt an adequate reason to list the formulation Annex 3. After this review, there's a recommendation made by the CRC. Sorry, someone has their microphone on again, I guess. Can you please mute your microphones? Can you please mute your microphones? Can you please mute your microphones? It's preventing the presentation from taking place. Hello? Okay, sorry for this background noise. We're calling the participants who probably unaware that there's background noise being formed because of the microphone on this side. I'll try to continue with the presentation. So to talk about again the severely hazardous pesticide formulations. Shall I continue? One party, as I said, is sending a proposal related to the problems it's having with the pesticide formulation under its own conditions of use to the Secretary. They can't hear. Oh, horrible. Christian, can you mute your microphone, Christian? Tu peux éteindre ton microphone? Christian?
Oui, s'il vous plaît, celui-là.
Vous pourriez éteindre votre microphone, s'il vous plaît?
Écoute.
Vous pourriez éteindre votre microphone?
Oui, je n'ai pas de microphone. Ok, oui, je vous écoute. Allô?
Vous pourriez...
Oui. Je ne vous entends pas bien. Oui. Okay. Ouais. Le microphone, c'est à quel niveau de l'écran? À droite. Un instant.
I don't have any gold. I don't have the gold.
Ah. Oui, je vous écoute. Je n'ai pas malheureusement l'icône sur laquelle je dois appuyer. Oui, je vous écoute, mais malheureusement, je ne vois.
Okay, I did it. Unmuted myself. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Very sorry for the disruption. We're very sorry for this. Throughout the presentations, please try to keep your microphones turned off. Doesn't move. Okay. Okay. Good. Okay. So I'll quickly go over what I was trying to say with the noise in the background. We were talking about the severely hazardous pesticide formulations and saying that one party submits a proposal about the problems it's having with a pesticide formulation under conditions of use. So here, what's key is that we have a pesticide, we have a formulation, and we have issues under the conditions of use in the country. And there are some incidents occurring with this in the setting of the country, and the DNA sends this information in the form of a proposal to the Secretariat. After this point, in a similar way, the Secretariat verifies the proposal and publishes it on the PIC circular, collects additional information to support the proposal, and asks the Chemical Review Committee to review the proposal. After the analysis of the Chemical Review Committee, if it is decided that it is necessary and that the chemical should be sent to the COP for entering N3, a DGD is prepared. After this step again, after the finalization of the different cycles of the work plan related to the drafting of the DGD is sent with the CRC decision to the COP, and the COP agrees whether the chemical should enter NX3 or should stay out of the convention list. So let me go into Zoom for this. To talk about the listing of chemicals, then we can say that the list for listing of the chemicals basically as the consequence of all this review. CRC prepares a decision guidance document. I couldn't click on the right one, sorry, just do that. And the recommendation and the draft DGD are forwarded to the COP, and the COP decides whether it should be subject to the PIC procedure or entering NX3. It can also occur that there's a need for removing a chemical from NX3, although this has never happened so far, given that it's very hard to put anything into NX3, and chemicals that are put into NX3 are a result of a lot of review. But if necessary, there is a possibility to also take a chemical out of NX3, and for being able to do this, the PRMT is supposed to submit new information regarding the chemical to the Secretariat, and the Secretariat is supposed to forward this information to the CRC, which can then review and revise the DGD, and the COP is to decide again whether it should be removed from the PIC procedure. I'll leave it at this and pass the word to my colleague, Mr. Gamini Manivera, to start talking about the POPRC process. Thank you.
I'm just hearing. Please continue. Okay.
Hello.
Hello?
Okay, you can hear me now.
Yes, I'm just hearing. Continue, please.
Okay, now I'm going to focus on. Sir, can you please mute your microphone? Hello.
Sorry? Hello?
Please, could you please mute your microphone?
Yes, yes. Just I'm hearing you. You can continue.
Please.
I've got your representation now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Tata, please turn off your microphone.
Okay, I'm going to focus on the POPRC part.
Yeah.
And okay.
Yes, I'm hearing you. You can continue, please.
In the POPRC process, the initial step is more or less the same. That one important thing here is that you don't need, as in the case of CRC, 2 notifications. The party can notify the secretariat on the proposal, and then the secretariat as in the case of CRC, just verify the proposal, and then it goes to the POPRC, the review committee, and there are 3 main steps undertaken by the POPs review committee. The first one is screening of the information in the proposal to see if the proposed chemical has the POPs characteristics as specified in the Annex D of the convention, which is a criteria for determining a chemical if it conforms to the convention requirements. And if that satisfies, these are the information that is looked at during this screening process. But of course, the first one is the chemical identity, and then persistence, and then bioaccumulation, and then potential for long-range transport, long-range environmental transport, and adverse effects. If all these criteria as prescribed in the Annex D of the convention is met, then POPRC make a decision that it satisfies the screening criteria, and invite parties and observers to submit the information specified in Annex E of the convention, which I'm going to explain in a minute. If not, if the any screening criteria is not met, inform the parties and observers, and proposal is set aside. Once the criteria is met, information is requested from parties and observers to develop the risk profile. Basically, the risk profile is the stage where information is assessed to see what is the likelihood of significant adverse effects arising from long-range transport that require global action. So the requirements are basically what is provided in Annex E. The parties and observers, as I said, submit information, POPRC further review the proposal, and prepares a draft risk profile according to the Annex E. The information looked at in Annex E stage are sources where the chemical can be released or released to the environment or produced, and hazard assessments, environmental fate, monitoring data, exposure and bioavailability, national and international risks evaluation, and international conventions where this chemical, if this chemical has been already considered or brought under certain regulatory conditions. So once this process is gone through, the proposal is either if it is it should decided that if this should be proceeded or not, and if the chemical is likely to have adverse effects to human health and or environment, the global action is warranted. Therefore, proposal should proceed. So, in the next stage, what are the possible control measures if control actions are necessary? That is going to be assessed in Annex F phase, and information again is requested from parties and observers as specified in Annex E. The information specified in Annex E contains efficacy, efficiency, alternatives, positive and negative impacts of control measures, waste, access to information and public education, status of control and monitoring, any national and regional regulatory control action. So these are considered at this stage, and then POPRC Review Committee prepares a risk management evaluation that includes possible control measures for chemical in accordance with Annex F. And once this stage is concluded, the POPRC Review Committee make a recommendation to the Conference of the Parties and for their consideration, and Conference of the Parties make a final decision whether to list the chemical in Annex A, B, or C. And then the working procedure, again, I would like to give the floor to Neslihan Garcia for her continuation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kamini. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. So to quickly also go over working procedures and policy guidance. CRC has developed a number of papers regarding the working procedures and policy guidance of the work of the committee. These can in fact be found on the website at www.pic.int. These working papers are revised when necessary. They're not set in stone, but they try to aim consistency, transparency, involvement of experts, and focus on relevant issues that would ease the work of the committee. And for those of you who are interested in detail in these papers, please go ahead and look under the Chemical Review Committee section of the Rotterdam Convention website. To go into the chemicals listed by the last COP of the Rotterdam Convention, you see the list here in orange. Azontose methyl, perfluorooctane sulfonic acid, perfluorooctane sulfonates, perfluorooctane sulfonamides, and perfluorooctane sulfonates, commercial pentabromodiphenyl ether, and commercial octabromodiphenyl ether. In addition to this, there's also been reviewed and recommended but not listed chemicals. One is, in fact, a severely hazardous pesticide formulation for paraquat dichloride at or above 276 grams per liter, corresponding to paraquat in at or about 200 grams per liter. Paraquat ion, at these given measures, and also cryototile asbestos, which has come to the scene for several times now and is not listed due to political reasons. Chemicals that will be under review at CRC 9 are the following. A decision guidance document will be finalized for trichlorophone, and other chemicals will be reviewed. New notifications will be reviewed. For industrial chemicals, this is lead carbonate. For pesticides, it's cyhexatin, lead arsenate, metamidophos, and a severely hazardous pesticide formulation, Pantheon 640. There's also be some additional information that recently came on pentachlorobenzene, which is a chemical that had been reviewed as an industrial chemical in previous CRCs. The chemical that was listed at Stockholm COP6 is hexabromocyclododecaine. And chemicals under review by POPRC 9, new proposals are decabromodiphenyl ether and dichlorol in Annex B stage. For risk profile, Annex E stage, short-chain chlorinated paraffins and pentachlorophenol and its salts and esters. And risk management evaluation at Annex F stage is for chlorinated naphthalenes and hexachlorobenzene. And if you have further questions on this, you can feel free to ask my colleague Kamini at the end of this presentation. So to wrap it up, what is the goal of both conventions? I think it's pretty clear to all of us who are involved in this process that it is to protect human health and environment from the hazardous chemicals that affect our lives in different stages, and hopefully through the review process of the committees, provide a better environment for all people in the future. Thank you very much for listening. I think I can now open the floor for questions. Please go ahead one by one, and the chair of the session will help you out through the process. Thank you for listening.